Committee. The first item on this evening's agenda is the appointment of the chairperson for the municipal year of 2025-26. Are there any nominations?
Yeah, Mr Watson, if I could propose Councillor David Wick to have another year of chair, please.
All in favour? Unanimous. Thank you, Councillor Wick.
Sorry.
Thank you very much, folks, and welcome to everybody here at tonight's meeting. Just to start off with introductions, my name is David Wick. I'm a councillor for Earby and Coates Ward, and recently re-elected as chair of this meeting. Could I just ask somebody with a phone if you can log on and make sure that we are live streaming? I'm never ever confident when I've done it that it's actually working. No, I'm not Councillor Chris Church.
Yours is there.
There you go. We've both got grey hair. If I can just ask people to introduce themselves, I'll go to my left.
Good evening again. My name is David Walker, Assistant Director for Operational Services and Area Coordinator for the West Craven Committee.
Good evening. My name is Neil Watson. I'm Assistant Director for Planning, Building Control and Regulatory Services.
Good evening, Mick Strickland, Councillor for Barnoldswick.
Good evening, Chris Church, Councillor for Barnoldswick.
Good evening, Susan Land, Councillor for Earby and Coates.
Evening, David Hartley, Councillor for Earby and Coates Wards.
Joanne Eccles, a Committee Administrator at Pendle Council.
Thank you very much. Now, to some extent, that acts as a bit of a sound check. So the people who are sat at the back, can you hear us all right? Do you want to speak up? Only just. Right. So, ladies and gentlemen, if we can speak up a bit more. So, we've had the appointment of chair. We've got appointment of vice chair. Oh, and I should mention that we've got apologies from Councillor Tom Whip, who left work late. His site's 2 hours away, so he's not going to get here. Could I have nominations for vice chair? Who did it last year? Well, Councillor Strickland then. I nominate Councillor Strickland.
I'll second that.
Yep, thank you very much. All those in favour? Thank you. That's carried. Appointment of co-optees. The committee co-ops representatives from parish and town councils. Are we content to follow on from that? Yeah? Okay. So that's moved and seconded so that we have invite representatives from Earby Town Council, Salterforth Parish Council, Kelbrook and Suffolk Parish Council and Barnoldswick Town Council. Item 4 is declaration of interest. This is where any councillors who have a prejudicial pecuniary interest have to declare it, and if they have such interest they leave the room when they come to that item. Are there any? No. Thank you. Right.
Good working, David.
Yeah, we're good. The next item on the agenda is a public question time, and this is an opportunity for anybody to raise issues affecting West Craven that aren't otherwise on the agenda. So could I check if there's anybody here who wants to raise any issues that aren't on the agenda? No? Okay, we'll note that. We've got the minutes of the last meeting. Would somebody move those as a correct record? Moved and seconded. Thank you very much. And somewhere there ought to be a set for me to sign. I'm not sure where they are. Thank you. Right. We've got police and community safety issues, and we've got PC Gareth Ingham here on that item. And then we've got quite a lot of planning applications, and I know that we've got 7 people down to speak to one of them and 1 person to speak to another. Now, the person with the baby, Sid, at the back there, I'm going to move yours forward, so once we've done with the police issue, we'll take yours, and then if you want to go, that's great. And after that, I'll do the application for Avon Drive. That's where we've got 7 speakers. So I'll just check if we've got all 7 speakers here. I have seen Christine, James Honeyman. Yeah. Gary Timmins. Thank you, Gary. Nathan Biriam Harker. Yeah, thank you. Sue Senior. Yes. Yeah. Stephen Carlos. Yeah. And Anne Brown. I've seen Anne somewhere. Yeah, thank you. Right, that's great. Full house. Marvellous. Gareth, do you want to come and sit up to the table?
I can do if you'd like to.
And then we'll do the police. Come and sit on a green chair.
On a green chair, right, so
You sit on
I don't know if these were sent out for somebody in particular.
Well, they're for the Parish and Town Council reps, but they're not here. Okay, so the committee has had circulated some facts and figures. Facts and figures which we'll ask you about. But Gareth, the overwhelming frustration of local people is
Antisocial behaviour.
Antisocial behaviour, the use of well, if I say e-bikes, I mean the Surons, the off-road bikes, which is causing, significant concern. So if we look at the figures, the antisocial behaviour figure is blank, and it'd be great if there weren't any.
Yes, so, I said I've just come back off 4 days off and these are produced whilst I've been off. So, if I start with the antisocial behaviour in the town centre, I came back into post in March, and there were significant issues with youths in and around Barnoldswick town centre. Just left to kind of do whatever they want to do, and it was a constant issue with things being reported direct to us, both crimes and non-crimes, and kids being unruly. Over the past few weeks we have been working, getting a grip of these kids. We've had people in plain clothes on buses. We've had people coming over, dragging the whole team, the whole neighbourhood policing team over, trying to get a grip of these youths. So far, we've had a massive decline in reported antisocial behaviour activity. And for the past couple of weekends, there's been absolutely nothing reported to us at all. This is an ongoing matter. Certainly, I wouldn't say finished by any stretch of the imagination. Just before I came here this evening, there are some kids on mountain bikes out by the bus station, which I've just had to move on and have words with. But again, we're seeing a decline in reported antisocial behaviour, which is what we want to see, and hopefully you're seeing that as well. You guys, I don't know. Then the issue of the people on e-bikes. We're aware of a few incidents now on canal towpaths, on in and about in the centre. I know there's a lad with a balaclava on riding round in a partially red coloured electric bike. I was inches away from gripping him the other day, but unfortunately on an e-bike he's a little bit quicker than I am on foot. It's a little bit of a difficult issue in that, as I'm sure you've seen in the news, people on these e-bikes have seen a police car, they've ridden off, crashed, and then it's the officers for the high jump, which obviously, you know, we want to do things as safely as possible. We don't want anybody getting hurt. And so we're looking at putting a plan in place with plainclothes officers and hopefully traffic officers in plain cars, where we can be out and about. Obviously, hopefully people won't realise it's us here, and when we see these e-bikes, we can try and monitor exactly where it is they go into, and if we find out what house they live at, then we can take some action against these people. And that's the plan so far.
Okay, thank you very much. You mentioned that there's been nothing over the last couple of weekends, but not this last weekend, but the one previously. I do know that arson was reported
So that's
King Street, which caused criminal damage.
Okay.
And I am aware an assault where one person had a tooth knocked out.
So that's an ongoing investigation, and I can't really comment on that. I'm aware of it and aware of the person or the people involved, and there's been somebody arrested. And like I said, that's an ongoing investigation. So the officer that's dealing with that will deal with all the outcome. One of the people involved, I am well aware of on other matters, antisocial behaviour and the likes. I today have been to speak to his parents. Unfortunately, he wasn't there. His parents are well on board and they are now fully aware of exactly what he has been up to in the town centre, and they're going to be keeping him in, and they're hoping that this arrest of his for this assault will be the short, sharp shot that's needed to get him to curb his behaviour. But obviously, time will tell.
Okay, and in terms of the arson?
The arson, so that I know exactly who it was.
It's pretty clear on the video.
Oh yes, it's very, very clear, there's no denying it. That's something I need to get a statement from the Town Council from. They just kept trying to find out exactly what has been damaged and get some photographs for me and what costs it will be to repair, and then that person can come in and be interviewed. Because this person is one of the main perpetrators of antisocial behaviour in the town as well.
Okay, and the last one, which I don't know whether it has been reported, was bottles smashing in the bus shelter over the weekend, where they were just smashing bottles. Nothing's
been reported to us.
Okay.
So I'm not, I don't know anything about that. Yeah, like I said, it's not been reported, so I wouldn't know about it. But certainly.
Right. Okay, thanks, Gareth. Who wants to come in?
Oh, first, if you got. So, hi Gareth, just in terms of the arson, so I raised a referral with Lancs Fire straight away from the CCTV.
Yeah.
The fire's team contacted me back the morning after and said they were going to go to school and try and get yourselves with them engaged in a programme to try and educate the school kids. Now, I'm mindful that the people who was setting fire to the petrol either not in school or not from that school. But my concern, as well as the individuals that are doing it, is that they've got a lot of following of young kids who are just chasing them around town when they're doing this sort of behaviour, and if we're not careful, we're going to end up with somebody seriously injured or worse. So Lancashire Fire and Rescue have got all the details. They have got the copy of the video.
Yeah.
They were going to go into school one day last week to try and start the referral process. Obviously, it's been shut again yesterday for bank holiday.
Uh-huh.
Are they back up today?
Uh,
Schools, are they back in?
I would assume that.
I
Oh,
think
yeah.
they're right, it's just for one day, isn't it? So they should be all over that. So if you want to contact me or something, I can give you the names of the people who's gone into school.
Absolutely, yeah. Brilliant.
You need to touch base. It needs to be a joint effort, does this, I think. You've seen it many, many times in the time of service over different parts of the county that if one agency goes in, it's nowhere near as effective as if
Sure.
both of them go in. So
Yeah.
we really, really need to punch very, very quickly and very hard.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's something that we look to do, the joint working with other agencies. So yeah, absolutely, we are more than happy to do that.
The figures, this is a continuous monthly moment. Mine is this. Last month we had a brilliant comprehensive update from Sergeant Emma around everything that is described in numbers.
Okay.
Numbers in boxes don't really tell us a lot about what action we're doing or you're doing in terms of getting them numbers down. I'm mindful that there's lots of minuses in there this month, which is really, really good.
Yeah.
But without the sort of action plan information behind it, we don't really know where it's happening and what's happening.
Okay. So an action plan in terms of which of the figures would you be most concerned about?
If I give you a copy of last month's statement from Chris Emma,
Yeah.
that really comprehensively goes through all the items on there as how it's laid out. We're mindful when it comes to assaults and things like that, there's things that we can't talk about. We all get that.
Yeah.
There's no problem with that. It's more around the other bits of stuff that's happening, and in that second set of minutes, that second page, it's really, really good. It gives a really good picture. And it literally took him 15 minutes, 10 minutes, and that's the sort of response that we need from the police to pass that back on to everybody out there.
Okay.
I'm mindful that we don't want to take people off the street, and this is a further frustration of mine is other community safety partnership meetings and council meetings that I've been to in the past, we've always had an inspector who's delivered this sort of stuff so that the community beat managers like yourself and sergeant like Chris can be out there doing what they need to be doing, not tied up writing reports and stuff like that. I don't know what appetite your inspector has, but we really, really need to start pushing that and making sure that they're the ones that are delivering.
Okay, that's something that you'd have to raise with my inspector. That's not, I can't really answer on his behalf. Yeah.
I'm just mindful that we don't want to take you off from doing your job.
Sure.
Because you being out there in the presence is exactly what's needed.
Yeah, and that's what I'm trying to do as much as is humanly possible. As far as the crime figures go, it's pretty healthy out there. The no burglaries at all to report. The assaults, there's always going to be assaults, I'm afraid, whether it be part of nighttime economy stuff or domestic assaults, or it's just something we can't get away from. Some days, some weeks and months they're going to be higher than others. Thefts, 11 across the whole month. Again, it's very, very low. And the arson and criminal damage, I know we've had the one arson that we talked about, was it King Street? Which obviously we're looking to deal with, and the other bits of criminal damage. There has been a few bits and pieces reported earlier in the month, which a lot of the 10 there, obviously the one at King Street, and there's been bits of damage at the bus station where people have been damaging benches and one thing and another. Unfortunately, the CCTV is good. However, when these youths have got hoods up, balaclavas on, things covering the face, it's not always that easy to be able to identify somebody, which again, why we've, whenever I see them out and about, or whenever we identify somebody that is involved in these things and wider antisocial behaviour, straight into the parents, making sure they know exactly where the line in the sand is. And like I said, we are starting to see a decline in reported incidents. Yeah.
Okay. Nick, is there anything further from you?
No,
I think the other literally area of concern, there's been quite a significant amount of problems at the New Road Park, or Russian Avenue play area, and is there any update on action in that respect?
That's the Earby side, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes. So I know officers, when they've been reported, have been up there, and other than there was an incident where I believe some plant pots and somebody had gone into an unlocked garden shed and thrown a couple of bits and pieces across the lawn. Other than that, whenever they've been up there and things have been reported, it's always been kids on a park. And what I'm told is that other than being noisy, they weren't really doing a great deal wrong.
Okay. I mean, the incident that you specifically referred to, I mean, that was part of several victimisation against a particular family.
Yeah.
And I think they had identified who was doing it. I'm surprised there hasn't been anything.
Without having a look at it, I wouldn't be able to say with any certainty. But as far as I'm aware, there isn't a great deal reported to us from that area. It all seems to have died down ever since.
Okay.
So we don't get a huge amount there either.
Right. I'm just looking at Earby colleagues, if that accords with your assessment.
yeah, thank you, Gareth, for coming and explaining, and thank you for the numbers going down. I know it's hard. It's just a shame, really, that it's taken so long of us beating on and bleating on for it to actually get through to people to come and get things sorted. And I hope that it's not just going to be a one-off thing, and that we're going to see more police both on the street in Barley and Earby, because Earby does get neglected.
Yeah.
I mean, Facebook and things like that, the social media, there's been very little from the park area. So, recently, but there has up until that. Now, whether that's because the kids are back at school, or
you're always going to see a rise in incidents when kids are off school. It always happens. As long as we can kind of keep that to a bare minimum, then since they've been back at school and since we've been targeting people, there's not a lot more happening. Certainly not had anything reported to us, and as you said yourself,
was the joyrider of the car round Earby Rec reported to you, doing donuts round Earby Rec?
I've not heard anything about it. But go on.
Try and find that video.
A video on Facebook,
Yeah, we don't monitor. People post all kinds of stuff on Facebook, and again, people will post things that are 3-4 weeks old, and then it starts to flare up again, and people commenting, "Oh, this is happening." So we don't monitor it. It needs to be reported direct to us, and then we can actually try and take some action against these people. But by all means, if somebody has been up there driving in that kind of nature, then I'm more than happy to go and deal with them. More than happy.
I think that specific incident, it was linked to other complaints where
Yeah, they'd come from
the
Barwick, I
same,
think.
the same vehicle.
Yeah, they'd come across from Barwick and started here.
You know, driving dangerously, ended up in it, and as far as I'm aware, people had reported it, complete with the registration number of the vehicle involved, and that is in the last month.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. We'll see whether we can
see
dig something out on that.
Yeah, by all means, you know, I'm hoping you've got my email.
Well, we can.
We'll sort that out.
Yeah, we can sort that out, yeah.
All right. Are there any other issues that people want to raise? In terms of the community safety issues, I think the ones that we've been talking about obviously remain our priorities.
Sure.
And we do hope to see an effective gripping of the people causing the greatest concern.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, like I said, it's a continuous thing. A lot of the kids have responded quite well to, you know, what we've been telling them. There are one or two that, unfortunately, doesn't always sink in quite as easily, but again, we shall continue working to try and get the message across to them.
Okay. Can we thank you very much for coming along, let you get about your job, and look forward to an improved situation when we get to our next meeting in June.
Lovely.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Right. We're going to go on to planning applications now. As promised, we're going to deal with the 6 Castle View application. Sid, you can speak from there if you wish, but if you come down to the front we can hear you better. And just to say, if you sit on one of the green chairs, you're likely to be on camera. If that's an issue, you don't have to.
First of all, if I fluff my lines, I'm sorry, I'm not used to this speaking public sort of thing, but thanks for taking the time to let us speak regarding the planning application. Firstly, me and Charlotte, we both lived in Barnolds all our life and just introduced our first child, Earby. We're looking to convert our garage into a salon for Charlotte to work from 6 Castle View. The part-time salon will be on an appointment-only basis and will never have more than one person at a time. So Ian Lund, the planning officer, has unfortunately recommended it for refusal on the grounds of it failing the sequential test for retail premises outside the town centre. This legislation is in place to protect and safeguard the viability and vitality of the town centre, which Charlotte and I both completely understand. However, I feel Mr Lund has failed to take a few key points into consideration. The legislation expects us to lease property in the town centre. Now, first of all, there's no units there which are already converted to be a salon or a barber's. So that would mean we'd have to get an empty unit and invest money into it and convert it ourselves. So our argument was that this isn't affordable for us. Mr Lund dismissed this fact that rent affordability alone is not a good enough argument and stated that we never actually referred to a specific unit or units in the town centre that were available to lease. Now, the only unit I can find in the town centre catchment area is the old takeaway place on Station Road, but it just wouldn't be a viable option for us. Firstly, it's designed to serve fast food, and like I said before, it requires a lot of money invested into it to turn it into a salon. Secondly, it's huge, it's too big. You know, as I stated before, this is just for Charlotte and Charlotte only. And finally, it's 235 quid a week to lease, which is 12.5 grand a year, which it's like that's nearly enough more than double our mortgage. So again, it falls back to the affordability argument, and it's, you know, in the times now with all this new government and everything, it's just simply not affordable, and it wouldn't be a gamble we'd be willing to take because we've just got too much to lose. Whereas if it was in our garage, you know, we're already paying the rent, so it sort of helps us ease the burden a bit there as well. In regards to protecting the viability of the town centre, I believe sticking another hair salon in the town centre is doing the complete opposite. Now, I did a recce the other week and I actually count 15 salons in the town centre. That's the town centre, Raynell Road, Church Street, Newtown and Fernley Avenue. So I'm sure that you'll agree it doesn't really need another place, you know, to get your hair cut. So we've both lived in Barlows, we call our lives, and at the minute I've never seen the town centre, you know, it's vibrant and booming. It's like got a bit of a European feel to it. There's Skipton that's coming to Barlick, whereas the other way, where Barlick is going to Skipton. So I think if there is a spare unit round here, surely it'd be better spent for someone that's going to, you know, gain a bit of foot traffic in there, not on an appointment-only basis. That's my argument anyway. And Charlotte's been cutting hair in Barlick for nearly 20 years, so she's got a fairly firmly established Barnoldswick-based clientele. I actually think one of them's here in the crowd today, which wasn't arranged, believe me. But so that ain't going to warrant fetching people from out of town into town centre. So I think a vacant spot would be better used for another waxing taps, cafe or a distinctive retailer. I'll round it up. Basically all my neighbours on there, they all agree with it. They all said there used to be shops once a day, but for life of me I just couldn't find any pictures in the library. I even fell asleep in there, shortly after Earby were born, trying to root through archives and couldn't find out. I understand Mr Lunt's comment regarding it setting a precedent to the town if he did, you know, give us the approval. But in his words, he said it's a very small scale development and it's deemed as an edge of the centre. All the other consultees didn't have an issue. The only thing going against us is it's 200 metres outside the town centre. We'd be happy to, if possible, we'd be happy to accept strict conditions as a salon only, or for us only, or to make it look like the holiday cottage next door. Basically, we understand it doesn't precisely fit into the planning laws, but that's what these committees are for, and we sincerely hope that you can see the added benefits to ourselves as well as the wider community. We're just a young family trying to take the next step in life, juggle childcare, business and everything else we're on our way. We'd love to gain your support and hope you look favourable on this application. Thanks for your time and giving us a chance to present our case.
Thank you very much. Can I just ask if there are any questions from committee before you sit down? No? Sid, if you want to take your seat, I should have explained speakers get up to 5 minutes, and once you've spoken, unless there's a question, you can't come back in.
Yeah, all right, no problem.
Right, well, that's for everybody else.
Thank you.
Cheers for you. Okay, now this is one that the applicant's request I called into committee without prejudice to what councillors might think of it. But first of all, if I can ask Mr Watson, in policy terms, what are the problems with this? I'm aware that there are any number of stylists, nail technicians, other beautifying, dog grooming, all over Barlick in residential addresses, which you know you don't know about, and I don't go around dobbing them in. So what's the problem with somebody doing this hair salon?
So it comes from national policy articulated through local policy. So what the national policy says is, unlike for many other things, unlike for industry or sports, etc., it is a town centre first policy that the national government has. It says, if you're going to keep your town centres and not undermine them, you've got to make sure that new developments go within the town centre. And I understand young family, etc., and I may you for starting this, but you said of 15, and I looked round, as you did, Mr Shorten, I looked round the town centre to look at vacant units. There are vacant units. There are a lot of, I don't need it, but there are a lot of hairdressers, etc. But you have 15 incidents like this, 15 similar cases. You've got 15 lots of competition. And the purpose of the town centres first is to force people to go into the town centres, so you keep your town centres vibrant. Boynolls is bucking the trend. A lot of town centres, Nelson spending millions in there, Cole's doing okay, but Briarfield, other centres are doing poorly. So if you set this precedent now to say, well, an applicant can't afford to go into the town centre, that's not a planning reason, by the way, I would advise you. What happens when the person next door to you says, well, I want to open one, and I want to open a shop this time? You set a precedent for the town centre being hollowed out by out of town centre shop units coming forward. Now, we have had recent appeals on this in Combe, and we've had one of the first things I ever dealt with when I came to Pendle was things in Nelson. It's been a long-standing position where even if you're just outside of the town centre, if there are town centre units available, applicants are expected to go to those. Otherwise, you end up with all kinds of other reasons, and you end up with developments of retail units, salons, other things that will compete directly with the town centre, just being allowed in various locations. That then does have an impact, and the theory is it has an impact on the vitality and viability of the town centre. It may not be this one on its own, but if you allow this, you open a door to other forms of development coming forward, and that's singularly and cumulatively there are impacts on the town centre. So, last thing I'm going to say, if you have 15 situations like this, you've got 15 lots of competition, that will then have an impact on those units in the town centre who have invested in it, who have converted, who have spent money, who have bank loans, whatever it may be, but have gone to the town centre because that's where we're directing them to go to. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. And can I ask Mr Watson, if the committee were minded to approve this against policy, what would your action be in terms of referring it to the central planning committee?
Chair, because we have had, well, it's quite clear in national policy, it's quite clear in our policy that it's the town centres first. There hasn't been a proper sequential test done, and in line with other decisions, it would set a precedent to overthrow, if you will, our policy, so it will be a referral to development management.
Okay. Ward councillors? Chris?
Thank you. Chairman, I hear what has been said about the legal background to this. As far as the volume within the town centre, the need for gravitation towards the town centre, I have got to say that there appears to be already more than the critical mass of hairdressers in the town centre. If these people were to, as we say, take out a loan, invest, whatever, and move into a town centre site, then that would probably create even more competition because of the capital effect of the number of units that exist there already. So I do feel some sympathy to them in this case.
Thank you. Mick?
I just wondered if there were some sort of conditions we could impose on approval based on the numbers of chairs that are in there. So if we asked that, you know, it's Charlotte's business on her own, one chair, it's one client per appointment, so that negates any, or keeps everything down to a minimum in terms of footfall, noise, traffic, etc. I totally get it, because we've had an incident very similar, haven't we, on management committee a couple of weeks ago, where somebody wanted to open something on the outskirts of town, but that town has got a lot of opportunity for people to move in, with a lot of help and assistance to get the businesses up and running. Barnes looks a little bit different, and given the small scale of work they want to undertake in there, a large unit would just be impractical, I think, and we would probably see the development of a small business grow rather than flourish, given the 15 competitors that they've got within the town centre. So my ask is that would we be able to put some sort of conditioning on there to keep it to a very small one-chair type salon with one single appointment?
Neil?
It's another one, 'cause, were the applicants to do the odd appointments at home, but then, for example, have a mobile hairdressing and go to different places, that wouldn't require planning permission, because you are allowed to run small businesses from home. This is an application to create a new unit though, so this takes it above the scale that would be ancillary to the residential enjoyment, because they're putting shop windows in, etc. So there are ways to operate from home perfectly lawfully within the planning system and not have an impact. But Chairman, I think it will be unreasonable for us to put conditions on, because conditions have to be necessary, and there are 6 tests that conditions have to satisfy in the planning system. I don't think it will pass those tests, but there are ways you could operate a business without actually applying and setting up a bespoke shop.
So the operation, if it was ancillary to the residential use, would be permissible.
Chair, without going into too much law, it's section 55 of the Planning Act, and it defines part of it what isn't development, and its use is incidental to the residential enjoyment of the premises. There's a lot of case law around that, and that basically means it's a minor ancillary thing. So, for example, I've got an office in one room at home that I use working from home. That's part of what you would expect from a residential unit. If you have the odd person coming in to your property and cutting hair without setting up a shop and in the formal way you're doing it, that will be okay. That will be part and parcel of the normal residential environment. So there are ways to do it without putting a coach and horses through the policy base.
Okay. Just let me comment that from a visual point of view, the replacement of quite an ugly garage door, which is what it is at the minute, with a more appropriate frontage would be beneficial. So, you know, if it was an ordinary door and sort of rebuilt with a window in it, I think that would look better than the garage door does. Neil, you want to come back in?
Yeah, if I may, on that as well. As a business, oddly enough, you have no right to change the front of your property. But as a house, a dwelling, you could change that garage door and put, because there are things called permitted development rights for you to change that. So you could put a door in, a window, etc., perfectly lawfully, without putting a shop front in. So there are ways to skin this cat, perhaps, rather than
right.
doing it this way.
It seems to me that there is a way around the conundrum, but that doesn't mean us giving any permission. It means the applicant's going away and doing something slightly different, which gets them to somewhere similar to where they want to be. Mate.
Could we defer the application tonight for the applicants to go away and have a look at what Mr Watson's suggested and see if that's a viable option for them to do? And then if they don't make planning permission, they will come back, obviously.
Yeah. Okay. Is that seconded? Yeah. Okay. So what's moved and seconded is that we defer this for the applicants to think further about their the way in which they use the property. If it's incidental and if your alterations to the frontage permitted development, you don't need permission, and that might allow incidental use of the property.
Yeah.
It doesn't have us driving a coach and horse through the planning policy.
Yeah.
Okay, so can I take a vote on that? All those in favour of deferral for those? Yep, that's unanimous. Okay, thank you very much. Hope that's satisfactory. Hope baby's happy with that. Are you happy with that? Yeah? Thank you. Right, we're going now on to Avon Drive. I mean, not physically, but in community terms, we're going on to Avon Drive. Just to repeat what I said earlier on, people have got up to 5, thank you. People have got up to 5 minutes. You don't have to take 5 minutes. If we've got 7 speakers at 5 minutes, it's 35 minutes. So, if I could just ask if people don't repeat points made by others, and try and keep it as succinct as possible. So, I'll take them in order that I've got on the list. And, I should just say that this is a change of use from a dwelling to a children's care home for one number child at 28 Avon Drive, Barnoldswick. So my first speaker is Christine Smith. Again, Christine, if you want to come and sit on the one of the green chairs. This is a bit like not Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. Mastermind, that's the one. Right, Christine, you're starting for 10 then.
Right.
Which is another quiz show. Fire away.
I'll try and stick to the points that you reported in the letter from the 6th of May. The Parish Town Council said they had no response to the planning. So I presume that no one has yet visited this site to see if it is in a fit state for a child to be homed in. And would it be inspected by someone before a child moved in to make sure it came up to Ofsted standard? With so little detail being given about the home that is being catered for, it could be where a child has been sentenced to custody and placed in a secure children's home, or remanded and placed in either a secure children's home or open children's home. What is 28 Avon Drive going to be? It doesn't say. The reason I stress this is because the architectural liaison summary in this report states the crime impact statement provided recommends various security measures to ensure the safety of the child. Staff and wider community, including secured by design standards. These measures are essential to mitigate risks such as burglary, criminal damage and vehicle crime. They include secure boundary treatments, robust gates and access control systems. Additionally, the property should be equipped with CCTV coverage, intrusion alarms and tamper-resistant fencing to enhance security. These are not the type of measures that will preserve or enhance the character and appearance of the street, and if this home follows the same paths as similar children's homes with care staff, it is the residents of Avon Drive who will need these measures to protect themselves. No external alterations are proposed, according to this, as part of this application, but up to now, the gutters still leak and are full of weeds. The double glazing is in a poor state and faulty. The garden area and sheds are in a terrible state, and yet it refers to it as a landscape garden, which wraps around the side and rear of the dwelling. To me, a landscape garden refers to a garden that has been artistically designed and enhanced, often incorporating elements like structures and functional outdoor space. The house does not have this in any sense of the word. The very poor soundproofing in the house, which has been mentioned, has not been mentioned in this report, but even Mr. Hussain said to me in conversation that he had never had a property with such poor soundproofing before, and he could even hear me using the stairs, despite the fact that I've got a very thick wool carpet on the stairs, but he could still hear me next door. When I had neighbours, I could hear their conversation in the kitchen through the walls. What do we presume is the soundproofing with a children's home next door to me? What is the standard of life going to be for me? Not very good. In the officer's comments, it states a minimum of 2 carers at all times, ensuring a 2-to-1 ratio. But in the summary, it states that the home will be occupied by 1 child and staffed by up to 2 carers at a time. Up to 2 carers, not a minimum of 2 carers. It seems to contradict itself all the time. Yeah, it seems that there are more details needed, and even a site visit to see the standard of work already carried out before this decision is approved. That was me, 5 minutes.
Thank you very much. Came in slightly less than 5 minutes. Thank you. Any questions for Christine? No. The next speaker is James Honeyman, and then after that it's Gary Timmins. So James, thank you. Do you want to come forward and then?
Well, I live across the road from the property, just slightly to the left. My partner and I have major concerns, as well as a 4-year-old autistic son, and this property is going to bring in maybe people with bad behaviours or things that cause damage to properties in and around the area, and the sort of safe space we have for our little boy within the house and the street is going to be compromised, we feel. So his behaviours are going to change, and things will become more difficult for us as any upset that's caused in and around the area potentially will have a major effect on him and his development and how he behaves. So that's our major concern.
Okay.
So that's all for me.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions for James? No? No? Okay. Gary.
Right. There's only a couple of points I want to raise, because Christine's done a fine job raising most of them for us. I'm a bit puzzled and confused about whose job it is to apply for this planning permission. Many months ago, when we got the application for this was happening, I approached Mr. Hussain and asked him what the crack was, and he said, the potential buyers of the property of foster children, they're foster carers, and they need planning permission to foster children. That's odd. That's very odd. I've never heard of that before. But I just took it as that. So that's the excuse he gave me. But now it's turned out that he's putting in for the planning permission and not the buyer of the property. It's to be sold as residential property, surely, not one with planning permission on for a care home. As the estate agent pointed out to me today, they can only sell it as residential property. The other point I'd like to make is it says the parking area shown on the approved plans shall be constructed of bond porous materials prior to first occupation. They've just come in and shoved a ton of gravel down, and that is it. It's all loose chipping, and that's going to be straight onto the path and the pavement and cause a right mess. And there's no curb drop off as yet, which means they can't legally drive over the pavement without that being done. I had my house done 15 years ago, it cost me £1,000. So, I know what the cost is involved, but that's basically, what I'm concerned about. Whose job is it to apply for the planning? Is it not person that buys the property, surely.
Okay.
Surely it's nothing to the vendor, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. When we're done with all the speakers, I'll ask Mr. Watson to respond to that point.
Yeah, it just seems a bit strange to me.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Any questions? No. Next, I've got Sue Senior and then Stephen Carlos after that. Sue?
Any chair? We're concerned about this happening on Avon Drive, as I've been informed from a close family member that they have close to them the same homes and they've caused chaos. In fact, one had to close due to infestation and the unsuitable care workers on site. So that's just one point. And the other point is, I was given some information and it was from a market position statement, December 2024, regarding children's homes. And I quote, it is saying, solo children's homes in Lancashire are not needed. And then it goes on to say what these solo homes are for. I mean, if you want me to read it, I can read a paragraph from it. Yeah. It is saying, solo children's homes will only be used by Lancashire in very special circumstances and would not usually be in a child's long-term care plan. Solo homes will only be considered for a very small amount of our children whose needs have been assessed are at very high risk at that time, with the impact being such that other children could not safely be alongside them, or because this would further increase the risk to the child. And that is from Janet Simpson. If that means anything to anybody.
Thank you.
Okay?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And you're down to speak in a bit. Any questions for Sue? No? Okay. Stephen.
Most of the questions what I'm going to ask have been answered, but I'm very concerned that the old setup is very, very slipshod. Everything has been done on the cheap. They're talking about the curb and the quarry bottoms. They've just thrown it down, there's weeds coming through already. The garden at the back is a disgrace, an absolute disgrace. And they're just trying to get money out of spending nothing, as well as it affecting all the children in the area and everything else. So, I don't know what it's like inside, but on the outside it is a disgrace. And how they can apply something like that, I do not know. So that's me done.
Okay, thanks, Stephen. Again, can I just ask committee members if there's any questions? No. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. And final speaker, Anne. Oh, sorry, have I skipped somebody? I do apologise, sorry. Nathan, yeah, do you want to come forward?
I've got 3 kids. I've got a 6-year-old, a 10-year-old, and a 2-year-old. And basically kids getting turned into a children's home. With the Children's Home Regulations 2001, it says it should be secure, unauthorised access, but anyone can go into the garden. So it's not secure, it's not unauthorised. Another thing as well is that it should have a disabled washroom or something like that, and it's got nothing downstairs to suit that if the wheelchair person goes inside. Basically, there's a lot of risks around the area. There's a canal on the opposite side. There's also a high voltage electric substation just round the back, next door, basically, behind 24 Avon Drive. There's also a lot of children on that estate but play but very lot together on the street. And under the regulations for the children's homes regulations 2015, it says that if a child is misbehaving unlawfully, that the carers should restrict them. What if that gets onto the front street and it traumatises our children? Because one of my daughters has got autism as well. Another thing as well is basically if there's one child is in there on its own, it can cause them to be unhappy with anxiety, depression and everything like that when they're looking out on the street and they can't go out because they've got to be cared for. So it could cause them to self-harm. It could be drugs, misbehaviour happening because they're unhappy, and all of the neighbours don't want that. That's me.
Okay, thank you very much. And apologies for not calling you earlier. Any questions again? No? Okay, finally. I have seen it, and if you want to, happy to pass it on to, yeah. Thank you.
Well, most things have been covered. It does say local children. What constitutes local children? How far afield is local children? Because apparently Lancashire has got one of the highest areas in the country for children's homes. That statement says that we do not require them. We do not need any more solo children's homes in Lancashire because they prefer to put them in bigger units. If it's local children, where they're coming from is one of the things, because if they're coming over from Nelson, Briarfield, wherever that way, there's plenty of properties over there. We're on a quiet cul-de-sac. You can see elderly people. I know of 2 new babies on the way. So we've got the elderly and the very young, and yet we've got not enough coverage of staffing and things like that being put forward. Yeah, so I think that's more or less because everything else has been covered. But there do seem to be plenty of other areas which may be more suitable than fetching them into a quiet cul-de-sac, say on the edge of town where there is a canal, where there's a substation, etc. I just don't see it as the necessity to turn it into a children's home. It also showed on the planning thing that was obviously not looked at by whoever looks at these things, that it's actually built of stone, which makes it sound quite a solid property. It is not built of stone. They are shuttered concrete with chippings. It's got a load of solar panels on the roof, which at the time they were put on, we were led to believe made that the roof did not actually belong to the house. The solar panel people, at that point when they were put on, was owned by the solar panel people. So I don't know whether that will affect it. It's going to affect traffic for the children and elderly that are on there. That's going to increase greatly, and it is only narrow, and we're getting cars piling in as it is. But, I think that's probably it. Yeah. I'm saying it's all on the one child only, which does make people nervous when the statement is that these children are unfit to be put in any other children's home. So what we're going to get. That's about it, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Anne. Again, any questions? No?
No.
Okay, can I thank you very much, and can I thank all the speakers? We've got through the speakers in less than 20 minutes, so thank you for your brevity. I'm going to ask Mr Watson to speak about the policies on this, but there was a specific question about foster children and whether you needed planning permission if you were fostering children. Now, I know lots of foster carers, and I'm not aware that any of them ever have got planning permission to use the home for anything other than a residential domicile. Neil?
Chairman, I'll answer other questions if you want me just on that point. Fostering is where you have a set of, it's normally a family, but it doesn't have to be, but they look after children on a permanent basis for 2, 3, 4 weeks, years. My sister-in-law has family has fostered for 10 years, the same set of children. So they operate as a family, as would myself with my family, yourself, Chairman with your family. So that's why they wouldn't need planning permission to foster.
Yeah, okay. Do you want to go on to the general points and any other issues that speakers raised?
There's quite a few in there, but I've made notes. If I miss anything, I'm quite happy to go back to it. Chairman, the condition of the property is not something that we would deal with it as part of a planning application. My understanding is that the Care Quality Commission and the licensing arrangements have to make sure that they're fit for children to stay in, so that's outside of the planning system. The planning system works on the basis of, if anything else regulates something, you've got to rely on that regulation process. So, Chairman, I understand the comments that have been made about the quality of the property, but that would be for somebody else to regulate. Chairman, secured by design, we get that comment on virtually every comment that comes back. It's not specific to this application. It's secured by design is just a standard that every type of building and new development should meet. So I wouldn't take too much store about what they've said in there. That's just a general comment, Chairman. Chairman, soundproofing, yes, I understand that. The real issue is, for members, will the use of this property lead to any other noise that you wouldn't, for example, get if you had a foster family in there? Because you will make properties. The key issue is what will make us think, you as decision makers, that this will lead to more disturbance than you would in a normal family house with children, because families are by nature noisy. Chairman, Mr Timmins said who applies for the planning permission, anyone can apply for planning permission on anything. I give this example many times. I can apply to redevelop Buckingham Palace if I wish to. There's a right for anyone to apply on any property at any point. The role of the council obviously is to discern whether all land use issues are acceptable or not. Chairman, a bound porous material condition, if it's not up to scratch, then we would enforce a condition by serving breach of condition notices. So, and the county council would have to ensure that there's a drop curb put in. Chairman, I'm just going through other points. Chairman, just to look at the overall issues here, it's not a young offenders institute. That will be something different. It's not a nursing home where medical care is being applied. It is a care home for children, and you can't specify what condition or what issues they will have. It's children of a broad spectrum who are in need of care, but are in need of obviously one-to-one, two-to-one attention. Chairman, that could range from, you know, the gentleman said he has an autistic child. Autism has a broad spectrum. You might get children of that nature in there. But the point is they will be supervised all the time. That's why, in my view, the issue about vandalism and antisocial behaviour, they are going to be supervised. It's more about the impact, whether the residents will have an impact themselves in occupation, as opposed to they're not going to be allowed out because they are under supervision. So, Chairman, it is a care home, as I said, not an young offenders institute, nor a nursing home where medical things will be applied. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, thank you very much. Just one or two points that I wanted to pick up from the comments. Not to repeat what Mr. Watson has said about the condition of the property, but it is one that lets the street down in terms of its appearance, and I do know it's been on the market for a few months, you know, for general sale. So perhaps it's if it had been done up a bit better, there might have been more interest in it. The property is what we call a no fines house, so it was poured concrete rather than, it's not built of stone. If they're trying to sell it as a stone built property, I think the Trade Description Act contravention but I think really it goes back to, is this a use in keeping with the area, and I think we've heard from quite a lot of residents who do not believe that it's a use in keeping with the area, and it's an inappropriate place to have such a setup. There was one point about it being local children that Anne made. I'm aware that there are local authorities from outside our immediate area that do place children within Lancashire and what seem to be less expensive areas because of the financial or perceived financial benefits. So, what might be considered to be local could be the north of England, as far as I can see. Okay, committee members, any further contributions? Chris?
Could I just ask Neil to clarify? You say that the child would be under supervision at all times. Does this literally mean someone with them outside the house, around, so that the child would not be going out alone?
Chairman, the nature of it is a care home. They have 2 staff with them all the time. There's scope always where they have more, and they have managers. So yes, they will be under constant supervision.
Although in the application it does say up to 2 people, not 2 people. Susan?
So, is this going to be a business? Does this count as a business?
It will be run as a business. Yes.
So it's a business use?
David?
Well, we're looking at the business use, then surely it should be brought to the town centre. That's the first position. Because let's get them into one of the shops in the town centre rather than on a residential estate. This is the business.
I think Neil's going to come back with the policy side on this one. Neil?
Yeah, Chairman, the annex to the National Planning Policy Framework sets out the types of businesses that should be in a town centre. A care home isn't one, so I get what you're coming to. Nice.
But we do have a care home in the town centre, so
yeah.
I mean, I don't know. There's lots of media hype around this. I have alarm bells ringing in my head of Southport, to be honest. Yeah.
Hang on. You've had your say, I'm afraid I can't let you come back in.
Yeah, I have alarm bells ringing, and these are 8 to 18-year-olds for a maximum stay of 10 years. I mean, if you're going to try and keep like a 17, a 15, even a 15-year-old, we've seen what we've got in the town centre at the moment with 14-year-olds that can get out and cause trouble. I think it's the wrong place, a quiet residential. I mean, I know Avon Drive, I spent many an hour chasing girlfriends around there when I was in my youth, and it's a lovely place, and it does go straight onto the canal and things like that. I sympathise with the residents of Avon Drive, and I think there must be a better place for this to go than on Avon Drive.
Okay, any further comments? No? Could I suggest that we refuse this application based on it being out of character with the area? Neil?
Just one point which we will be asked if we go to appeal. You've got children who need of care, in need of care. This is a residential area, children living in residential areas. Where would the council expect children with care to live if they're not going to live in a residential area? That will be a question that will come to us as an appeal. So if children in care can't live in residential areas, where would society, where would we where would we expect them to live? And just one other point, fostering is a business as well.
Hang on, sorry, I can't let you come back in.
Yeah, I just think that the report that says it's one child, and that child really needs more family around it, and more people around it. But yeah, I really think you'd be opening a bag of worms. And I do think they have to in residential, but I don't think this is the right residential place for this development.
Well, I put a proposal on the table that's out of character in the area.
Second.
Okay. Mickey, you wanted to comment?
Yeah, no, I just wondered if there were anything in that document that suggested that when we went to appeal, where Lancashire County Council are proposing that not one child homes where we're actually supposed to go. I couldn't say anything about it.
It says we don't need any.
That's what I mean. It says quite clearly that we don't need any.
They're only coming out of area according to that report.
I was wondering if there were anything here from Ofsted that the registered children's home that gave us some more sort of ammunition if you want for where we could be. But can't say anything.
It says there's an excess of places available.
Yeah. I support what you say. I just wondered if there was anything in that document that would help us in terms of appeal.
Okay, well it's moved and seconded.
Chairman, I'm in a real difficult position. I'm not certain what I would put in an appeal. What appeal statement, what material planning grounds I would put. We would put as an advance as a council. If we can't advance proper reasons, proper material planning reasons, then we would head for potential A, approval, and costs. So, Chairman, unless that's articulated in more detail, my view would be there's a likelihood of costs against the council, so it will be referral to development management.
Okay, I mean, I would argue that we've got a demonstrable inadequate police presence in Bonaldswick, and I think that's quite clear. We've been without police officers for 18 months at a stretch. That's precipitated all the problems that we were talking about earlier in the meeting, and despite the fact that there ought to be at least 3 neighbourhood officers working in the area, we've got 1 police officer and perhaps 1 police community support officer. So we've got inadequate policing. From my reading of the situation, the occupant, the child occupying the dwelling would potentially be of bad behaviour, and therefore I think that it requires a degree of infrastructure to support the potential for somebody who might abscond and cause wider problems. Now, I don't know whether any of that is of any use in arguing the appeal, but if you look at the children's homes that we are more familiar with, they tend to have, with a number of children present in them, they tend to have a staffing level that's commensurate with the need to give reasonable care and attention to the children involved. And I fundamentally think that this is defective in expecting a heck of a lot of one person to try and care for an individual who may not be of the best behaviour. So, sorry Neil, I can't give you any good sort of planning grounds, but I do feel that it's inappropriate. So, is it still your intention, if we refuse this, it'll go to development management?
Chair, that is how I see it now. I will obviously run it past the head of legal services, and it has to go through that test anyway, and we'll consider that work members to want to refuse on it being an inappropriate.
Right. Can we go to the vote then? So those in favour of the proposal, please show. Okay, that's carried. Thank you very much. Right, so folks, the situation is that although we've refused the application, it stands referred to the Central Planning Committee because we're going against policy. There's a risk of costs should the applicant's appeal, and in those circumstances the decision is taken as a recommendation to this Central Planning Committee, which is made up of councillors from across Pendle, not just West Craven. So that's how it stands. Okay, we're going to go on to our other planning applications now. If people want to leave, I'll just pause the meeting for a minute or two. Oh, sorry, Joanne, when is the meeting? So the development management meeting is on Tuesday the 20th of May. Yeah, right, thank you. Thank you.
Will we be able to attend?
Yeah, in the same way that you've attended today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your help and hearing.
to the first one that we've got on the agenda, and this is the Brook Shed site in Earby, which we deferred at the last meeting to see if the applicants would amend the application to incorporate the gap in the fencing for the cycle and pedestrian route. And the other issue that was raised at that meeting was the removal of the walls which were at 90 degrees to the retaining wall. Now, Mr Watson, I'm not sure that there's been any progress on either of these issues. Do you want to just tell us where we're at?
John, we had a meeting with the agents and we went through obviously what was discussed at committee, and they put some proposals to their clients, but they haven't come back to us. So they are looking at it. I think the agent's view probably is to try and go along with what committee have indicated, but they're going to come back to us with a response, but they haven't done yet.
Okay, so that seems to me a deferral.
Yes, Chair.
Have they agreed to an extension of time?
Yes, Chair.
Yeah. Okay, so it's moved that we defer this. Seconded. All those in favour? Thank you. Now then, this next one is at Thornton Hall Farm, the erection of 3 number polytunnels and the siting of 2 shipping containers as a venue, visitor farm and educational and agricultural use. And this is one that I asked to come to committee in view of the recommendation under the delegation scheme. Mr Watson, do you want to outline the issues here?
Chairman, cutting to the chase with it, happy with, we want Thornton Hall Farm to flourish. It's a growing business. They don't always follow the rules, or very seldom follow the rules, shall we say. And they haven't done here, put bases in and put units up. The issue really revolves around not the use and whether it's a good thing for the area generally, it's the landscape impact. Located where it is, above, through the back of the house, on the skyline, etc. And it's a straightforward question, I think, for the council, in my views, whether we think the landscape impact is or isn't acceptable. We've concluded as officers we think it is unacceptable where it is. I think there are probably better locations we could have put it. But that for me, Chairman, is the fundamental question to answer. Is it acceptable in landscape terms?
Okay, thank you. Obviously, this came to committee previously as an enforcement issue, and we've had probably 7 months when it's been there, or the structures have been there. I've looked at it from various viewpoints, including public footpaths near the church at Thornton in Craven, and across the way as well. And my judgment is that it's not an unacceptable impact on the environment. I do think if we were to put some conditions on requiring screen planting, that would enhance it. But otherwise, I think the structures are reasonably well positioned in terms of the other, the farmhouse and the other buildings that there are on the farm, which obviously it isn't just a farm, it is a venue, and it is used as a venue nowadays. The one time that I did notice it from away was one of the events that they had, where there was some, as I was coming over the hill from Lothersdale, I could see these lights, and I thought, well, where are those lights? And that was the lights on the path up to these structures. So there might be something like putting a condition on about appropriate lighting. And Mr Watson may have some other conditions that he would suggest if we were minded to approve it, but that's the way that I'm feeling. What do other councillors think?
Okay, I think it's...
Not all at once.
Sorry.
Mate,
No,
sorry, mate.
you're
I think it was Mick and Susan, I'm not sure about this.
We came up, we had this discussion at length, didn't we, last year, around, from memory, put them up without planning permission, and then he was trying to gain planning permission respectively. Yes, that's right. Yeah, I mean, well, I said then, and I kind of stand by it now, that if it isn't, you know, it isn't a farm, and a lot of the discussion that we had on last time was, well, it's you know, it's having an impact on agricultural land and everything else. Well, so there's the big stone-built wedding venue, so there's the big, you know, barn structure that has kids climbing all over it, so there's the trucks that go up there and everything else, but it's a very, very good commodity for the economy, the local economy, for jobs. I personally believe that the applicant just needs rein it in, and if we put an application, sorry, I'm speaking now. If he's put an application for something, then he shouldn't be coming and asking for forgiveness. He should be putting an application in for the planning permission to start. If there's conditions that need imposing for us to agree this tonight, then it needs to be left under no uncertain terms that these have to be abided by. Otherwise, are we going to be here at Christmas when another structure goes up for something else? And that's it. It's just being honest with it. I really want it to succeed. I really want it to expand into the Halloween type stuff, because I know how well it will be supported locally and from afar. But it just feels that it just needs pulling in a little bit in terms of, you know, the development, what it needs to abide, you know, to abide by the conditions that we set in the reasonable time frames that it needs to be done. I just don't want to be sat here again in another 6 months saying that we're in the same position. And I totally get what you're saying around it. You know, I've walked from Earby and from Gill Golf Course as well, and driven up Wiswick, and I can't see massive, you know, impacts to the landscape. But if there is something there that softens it, where the views, where you can see it in terms of a soft edging, albeit, then they're great. Yes, let's have them in.
Okay. I think Susan was next.
I'm slightly different to what you think, because we drive up there every week going shopping, and I'm not even sure if it's that bit of the development that we noticed, but every time we go up there, my other half said, it looks horrendous up there. And I have been of the same mind, and I guess I also wanted to succeed, but I think we just need to be careful that these people aren't going to start ending up like the caravan site, where we're getting just random things appearing, and it's never applied for in advance, it's always retrospective.
Okay. In terms of the caravan site, I think they do apply for things. We have to consider this as an application, and we don't penalise people if they've done things already.
Yeah, I understand.
You take it on its merits, so just to rein in a little bit on that one. In terms of the views you can visit, it's the cabins and things like that that are apparent. I mean, this development, you can see it, but it sort of merges into the background. I don't think it's a beam in your eye.
Just have a quick look on Google Maps from sort of Church Road. It's not. Sorry, from the A56. it's kind of the front side of it, isn't it? And it's at the back side of it rather than the front.
Right, that's fine. I haven't been up there, so I'm saying just which bit it was. Right, that's fine.
Okay.
I mean,
Chris?
Thanks, Chairman. I don't mean to sound defeatist here, but I'm thinking also as a member of the neighbouring church and indeed a warden there. There is a general acceptance that it is now a venue and it is not going to look like a farm again. That this does involve some visual disruption, although not, well, I wouldn't say not a lot, there could be more. I think what Nick says sums it up perfectly, that we ought to be putting in whatever conditions we can and observing the fact that we would expect to have applications put in the normal way before something is put up from here on. If we have tolerated this behaviour to a degree so far, then as long as they know that they can put that we're asking for them to put some visual softenings in, and simply make it clear that we would expect applications to be put in the correct and formal way in future.
Yeah. I'll repeat the thing about we can't penalise them for putting in a retrospective application.
No, I do see that.
Okay. David, you haven't spoken.
No, I haven't, Chairman. I just want to echo everything everybody said. Going back to the fact that when it came to us before, that we said this was the last time, they needed to toe the line and to make sure that whatever planning permission goes through, that they abide the law and by the letter, and that the planning department keep on top of them, because they can't be trusted to do it themselves.
Okay, I'm going to repeat myself for the third time.
Yeah, I know.
We have to look at this on its merits and put to one side it's a retrospective application. So what do people want to do?
I think if we're going to accept it, we need to put the conditions on that it's softened where possible with the landscape.
Yeah.
To ease any impacts.
So we want a landscaping plan to the satisfaction of the local planning authority. I think a lighting scheme, noise and hours of operation. Susan?
On the noise, I mean, I don't know what it's like up in Thornton, but we can hear it down here,
But that's not these buildings.
No. Right, so
this is not these buildings.
Yeah, it's only about this.
Yes. Disentangle the different aspects. They're not doing the live music up with these polytunnels.
Right.
From what I remember, Chair, it's a walk-through, sort of a Scary Kingdom type thing.
Yeah.
We're going to walk through the tunnels. We're going to be set up in alleyway. So. And used as agricultural buildings as well. It says in their planning application. So I don't know.
Visitor farm and educational and agricultural use.
Yeah.
As well as the Halloween thing.
Okay, so if we are minded to approve, it's subject to various conditions that Mr Watson needs to do some work on to make sure that we've boxed it off. but we haven't made the decision whether to approve it or not.
Should I move that we approve on the conditions that we've discussed then?
Yeah?
I'll second that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I take a vote on that? Those in favour, please show. Thank you very much. That's carried. Right. Engineering works. I confess that most of these on the agenda tonight are ones that I've called in, and on this one, I'm more than happy to now propose that we approve it. The reason for me not letting it go through on the delegation scheme is that they hadn't provided a reasonable footpath route to go through the area of land that they will flood from time to time when the amount of water exceeds the capacity of the attenuation tank. The plans showing a footpath link stoned up and raised above the flood line, as it were, have gone onto the portal today, so I'm happy with that. They have also acknowledged that they won't be taking the spoil off site and that they will be remodelling Luke's Mound, which we knew that's what they were doing, but we were pretending that they were going to take it all away, which is a legitimate thing on a temporary basis. And they've reiterated that up to a certain storm level, the water will be contained within their ownership rather than spilling out onto Greenfield Lane. I suspect that some of the flooding events that we have will be in excess of the calculations that they've done, but having seen the revised plans, after quite a lot of pushing from me, that I'm satisfied that it will be fine. So I'm more than happy to propose approval on this one.
Yes.
Okay. Are we all in favour of that one? Thank you very much. And the next one, the erection of a front dormer for a loft conversion of 7 Fernbank Avenue, where essentially it came again as a delegated decision to turn this one down on the basis that it was, for the reasons set out in the recommendation, incongruous and out of character with the design of the building. But as Mr Watson well knows, councillors whip, both younger and older, have been arguing that we ought to have a more relaxed attitude about people putting dormers on buildings, because they make the properties more relevant to modern day living, improve energy standards, and to some extent reduce the requirement for people to build new houses on green fields. I've looked at this several times over the last few weeks, together with the surrounding area, not least because I've been delivering it repeatedly. Although Councillor Tom Whip would argue this more vociferously, I honestly can't see that this would do any harm. I can't get carried away with, the sort of uniformity of the buildings being so important, and the design, sort of making it look like rubbish. I don't think it would. So I'm minded to agree to approving this, but I'm not a ward councillor, so I'm more than happy to hear the views of the 2 ward councillors that we've got here. Nick, do you want to set off?
I'm just looking on Fernbank at number 7 on Google Maps, and whilst there is no other visible dormers, there is a lot of what looks like converted loft spaces with Velux windows on. I'm just trying to get around the corner because I think from memory there is one just on the corner, a fairly substantial on Coniston.
There are some rear doors on Coniston,
so this is
which you can see from Fernbank Avenue.
Has there been any objections from other residents? No.
Neil, he's having to look at the report.
Yeah, there weren't any objections, Chairman.
From me, I mean, I don't know about you, Chris, with the other barrels it was, but I just think if we can, you know, promote the development of existing houses to accommodate larger families, then we should do so where we can. We're also mindful that we don't want domes impacting on other people's properties and things like that, but I think given in this state, the elevation of the house itself already in relation to the houses opposite, it's just going to be higher up and looking further over the fields. So, yeah, I mean, I'm happy to support what you say on that, Chair.
I'm with that entirely.
Chris?
I'm with him entirely on that.
Okay. Neil, if we are minded to defer, what sort of conditions do you want to put on?
Chairman, there's a side-facing window. I'd have to check whether that needs an obscure condition, but other than that, it's just a bit materials.
Okay. Are you happy to move and second that?
Yeah.
Yeah? Moved and seconded. Those in favour, please show. Thank you very much. No referral to... No. Thank you very much. Okay, I think that brings us to the end of the planning applications. It's 8:30, just gone. We've got item B, the appeals, and there are 3 listed there. Can we note that? Thank you. Item 9 is enforcement action. This list seems to be getting longer, Neil. So, looking at the first page there, we've got a prosecution at the end of May for the former Wardle Story offices. On the first one on Greenberfield Lane, on the 2 for land at Greenberfield Lane, sorry, we've got a further prosecution in July. The next one, Lower Greenhill Farm, construction service water management plan, where it is proceeding to prosecution, and land off Cobb Lane. The construction management said that is that they only need to keep the road clean, implement wheel washing facilities. I'm not quite sure where we're at with this one, Neil. Are you familiar with it?
I'm not familiar with the exact detail, and I haven't spoken to Julian with it, but the wheel washing stuff is odd, because if it's in dry conditions, you make it worse if you tell them to put wheel washing facilities in there. So we take that with not a pinch of salt, but according to the specifics. But Chairman, I don't know exactly where we are with it. If you want me to find out, I'll email around committee.
Okay, that would be helpful. The last time I was up there was quite a lot of loose stone on the road. It was dry, but you can imagine sort of driving over a stone, it flicks up and smashes somebody's windscreen or whatever. So I'll make a point of going and having a look. But if we could have an update, that would be helpful. Thank you very much. So moving on to item 10, area committee budget. We've got a report. There's a request from Mr Walker for £1,000, and that's on the basis of £1,000 worth of work, which I think he ought to managed out of his own budget on the basis of the protocols. So can I suggest that that bid is deferred for Mr Walker, to investigate whether he's going to get his hand in his pocket?
Yes, Chair. Yeah, I'll certainly go back and my understanding, though I can be wrong, is that any replacements and renewals are taken from our street cleaning budget, and the area committee's funding is generally used for new bins. So I'll gladly take that up, Chair. And
Okay,
have a
all
look.
right. So I'm referring to item 13, where there's a list of replacements which I would expect to come out of the R&M budget rather than out of our area committee one. So can we note the rest of the area committee budget stuff? Anything further on that? No? Okay, moving on then. Item 11, traffic liaison meeting. Just looking at it page by page. Page 1, a loading bay, no waiting at any time. I think that's come in now, I'm not right sure to be honest. On page 3, it's numbered at the Kisner Road, the bus stop markings have been done. There's no waiting at any time. In Salterforth on Earby Road, positive responses so far it says. And then if we look at the narrative stuff, Waterloo Road at Calbrook, so double yellow line request. And it says all in attendance agreed that there was no support for additional parking restrictions. So in other words, they're not going to implement them. 4.3 Barnoldswick Town Square, no loading at any time request. This is the narrowed section of the back of the square, they did agree to proceed with the no loading at any time restriction and go through with an informed consultation. So that means that they are minded to introduce that. On the rest of it, is there anything else people want to pick up? No. In terms of Skipton Road, Barnoldswick, I've had a further request for speeds on Skipton Road, Barnoldswick to be moderated in some way, shape or form, and indeed the same thing applies to Skipton Road, Earby. Now we have reiterated that our request for this to be looked at previously. Could I suggest that we just pick it up again and sort of push again for something to be done engineering wise? Yeah? Okay. Anything further on that one? No? Going on then, item 12, premises improvement grant schemes, and we bounced it last time because we weren't sure about the funding, so it is carrying forward. rather than having fresh funding. Are we content with that? And then we need 2 volunteers or 3 volunteers. I'm happy to be one of them. Chris, are you happy to be another one? Yes. Yeah. David, you want to be one?
Yeah.
Okay, so 3 of us to be a little panel to look at any applications that come in. Is that all right? Yeah? Yeah. Okay, thank you. Item 13 referred to it earlier on. There's a list of where Mr Walker's robbing us blind, or at least his staff are. Item 40, installation of a flagpole at Salterforth War Memorial. We got some costings through, and they are in excess of what we've got in the area committee budget. So I think, despite the fact that Salterforth Parish Council may not be on board with this, that we'd need to have a liaison and some discussions with the Parish Council to see if we can get an agreement on a way forward with that. Does that sound a sensible way?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay, so defer it for discussions with Salterforth Parish Council. Item 15, representation of outside bodies. It says, here in Salterforth Internal Drainage Board, a number of people to be appointed to, but during the year we did learn that actually the number of appointments is 7. So we can appoint 7 and they need not necessarily be councillors. So could I suggest as a starter that we make it the 3 ward councillors? And if anybody else wants to join us, I think Councillor Tewitt was also added to the list. So that makes 4. Any further volunteers or press people? No? Okay. Could I suggest those 4 then?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Item 16, this is, well, it's 2 things. First of all, I've lost the report, but it doesn't matter. So there's two bits of land. The first bit of land on the planning application is public open space at the end of the development, adjacent to Stonybank Road, and Pearl Together, of which I am a director and declare a personal interest, offered the land together with a dowry for it to be public open space. Officers within Pendle Council said no. The developers went to Earby Town Council, said, Earby Town Council, do you want to take this on? You get the land on £23,000. Earby Town Council said no. So there is an option for the land to be incorporated within the private gardens of the end dwellings, and I just think it's a prominent location. It's one that ought not to go into private ownership, and should be a public facility. Well, an attractive area that the public can see. So my suggestion is that Pendle Council should accept ownership and future liability to look after it, together with the dowry. And by the time that the dowry runs out, Pendle Council will be a dim and distant memory, and a new unitary authority can discharge her obligations in terms of looking after it. So, are we agreeable with that, or do we think that it's best going into private gardens. Susan, David?
Yeah, I think it's better coming in and looking after it than doing it, so yeah.
Okay. If you're agreeable with that, then our recommendation to the executive would be the Pendle Council to take it on. The other area of land is in the ownership of Pendle Council. It's the boggy area at the opposite end of the site, part of which has been used as a compound. We've got the site cabins on there, and the agreement with Pearl Together was for the land to be reinstated to its former condition, but I tried to see if there was any traction with getting it made into a pump track, together with appropriate planting. That fell by the wayside because Earby Town Council weren't willing to take on the liability of looking after a pump track into the future, and we're not in a position as an area committee to do so because we might not have any money and all that sort of stuff. So Earby Town Council were asked would they take the pump track on, and said no, we don't want to look after a pump track, and they said we'd rather it be planted up and have a bit of a wetland area. So Pendle Council went back to Earby Town Council, said, well, do you want to look after it, do you want ownership of it if it's a woodland and wetland area? And they said no, we don't want it. So the question coming back to here as an area committee and the executive is what sort of scheme do we want doing on it when it's no longer used as a compound, and before somebody thinks, oh, we could make some money out of it and build houses on it, we don't really want that. So it's either revert back to the mowing the grass, that sort of scheme, or making a bit more of it, planting some trees, making it a bit more attractive, and accepting that might be more expensive in the long run to look after than the green grass. Again, my suggestion would be that we recommend to the executive that we go for the tree planting and wetland area, and making it a nice feature.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah.
Sorry, Chair, is it free now to do, or is it still a compound?
It's still a compound because it's a.
Was it likely to become free?
I don't know. I think probably there's another. It might be at the end of this year. The shells are all. Well, they're not all up, but they're getting towards the end of putting the shells of all the houses up, and then they'll build them out as they're sold. So they'll only be fitting out in future.
So they had their first open day last week. There. So.
Is it suitable land for fruit trees? Could it be like a public sort of orchard from the fruit trees and stuff like that?
Potentially. The big problem is that there is this boggy bit in the middle.
Yeah.
There's a footpath runs through it, and in fact there's a dead-end footpath that runs up the back of Wentcliffe Drive as well. But you work around that okay. Yeah. So my suggestion is we recommend to executive, having it as a planted area rather than just green grass. Neil, just to ask you, is it big enough to be a BNG site? Could we actually get some?
You probably could, but BNG sites you don't want public access on, generally speaking. there's a conflict between that and, but any bit of green, it's not normally compatible with people and dogs and what have you.
All right, well, maybe forget that one then. But yeah, are we okay with that?
Yeah.
Right. That brings us to item 17, which is exclusion of public and press. Would somebody move that? Right. Okay, I'm going to have to move round and to the camera. Can I thank anybody that's watched the meeting, watching it in the future?